My boyfriend, Leo, was raised so strictly, he was practically a saint. Kissing and cuddling were fine, but anything further was strictly off limits. It drove me crazy, especially when I could see the dark fire burning in his eyes, see his atoms apple bob and weave. I couldn't resist the allure of this perfect, domestic god. So, I decided to take matters into my own hands. The day it happened, Leo's twin brother, Jake, was pounding on the bedroom door, his voice a raw, desperate roar, begging me to stop. Seriously, who acts like such a controlling patriarch these days? The more he protested, the wilder I got, determined to lavish all my affection on Leo right then and there. When I finally opened the door, I found his brother slumped against the wall, a damp patch spreading between his legs. He was completely drained, and the look he gave me, it was anything but normal. Why did he look like he'd been the one thoroughly loved? My boyfriend, Leo, is ridiculously hot. His face is a masterpiece, and his body is even better. He's nearly 6'3", with broad shoulders and narrow waist, and legs for days. His chest is big enough to get lost in, and to top it all off, he's emotionally stable, endlessly patient, and does all the housework. Landing a guy like him, I must have saved the universe in a past life. There was just one tiny problem: no sex. And with a body like that, telling me to keep my hands to myself was basically torture. Kisses were fine. Cuddles were great. I could even nuzzle his pecs all I wanted. But his belt buckle was a line I could not cross. Even when he was hard as a rock, standing at full attention, he'd just grit his teeth and say no. He couldn't? If that level of hardness wasn't good enough, then no man on earth was. Every single time, he'd end up in the shower, blasting himself with cold water. Wasn't he worried about long-term side effects? Leo, I whined, rolling around on the bed. You can't do this to me. How can you be so indifferent with a goddess like me right here? I'm going to throw a tantrum, he sighed, pulling me into his arms. Nina, we can't. I buried my face in his chest, rubbing against him while grumbling. But why not? Why? Another chaste night passed. The next morning, he was holding me tight in his sleep, his body unconsciously grinding against me, the morning wood pressing uncomfortably into my backside. Leo? He jolted awake, instantly aware, and bolted for the bathroom to cool down. With that kind of self-control, the man could achieve anything. That morning, I launched several surprise attacks. I was defeated every time. His belt, I swear, was forged in the fires of Mount Doom. I ground my teeth in silent frustration. You promised we'd wait until after we were married. Right. I had. Back then, I thought a girl should be demure. And it was just a relationship. We could break up at any time. Sex wasn't a big deal. But after 2 years together, I was completely in love with him. When my landlord kicked me out a while back, he insisted I move in with him. The man owned at least 5 properties, if not 10. He was generous, and I accepted. To soothe my pride, he let me pay him market rate rent, but then he'd just turn around and spend it all on gifts for me. Furniture, rugs, matching pajamas, anything he thought was cute, he bought to decorate our little nest. He kept the fridge stuffed to the gills. He loved cooking for me. He was just too good. A 24-karat gold boyfriend, thoughtful in every way, providing all the emotional and financial support a girl could dream of. And let's not forget that body. The first time I saw him shirtless, I just about short-circuited. Broad shoulders, tapered waist, and those shockingly massive pecs which, I might add, were a lovely shade of pink. Who could possibly resist that? He'd stand in the kitchen, shirtless, wearing a pink apron, the ultimate house husband fantasy. His chest looked so heavy. It was only fair that I helped support it, right? I'd sneak up behind him, pressing my face into the groove of his spine, my hands creeping under the apron to roam free. He'd endure it, his breath growing ragged, before spinning around and pinning me against the counter for a deep, bruising kiss. My fingers would trail down his stomach, over the neatly arranged abs where thick veins converged, all leading south. I'm a healthy woman with normal hormones. It's natural for me to want him. But that damned belt buckle was a fortress. The moment he sensed my intentions, he'd snap out of his haze. No meant no. And even foreplay was a no-go. Damn it. He was like a hero from one of those super chaste romance novels, guarding his virtue with his life. He'd carry me to the sofa, set me down gently, then retreat a safe distance away, panting as he tried to compose himself. If it weren't for the persistent bulge in his pants, I might have thought he felt nothing at all. I was out of ideas. I collapsed onto the sofa, and wailed, woe is me, a young widow. I can look, but I can't touch. He moved closer to comfort me, but he stayed poised, ready to bolt at a moment's notice. The humiliation. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I draped myself over the back of the sofa to watch him answer it. Standing outside was a mirror image of Leo, his twin brother, Jake. Jake was identical to Leo in height and looks, but I'd never mistaken them. Their auras were polar opposites. He exclusively wore custom-tailored suits, the crisp navy fabric of this one looking cold and severe in the morning light. His expression was icy and arrogant, and he always looked at me with a critical eye. Their parents had died in a plane crash, leaving the two of them to run a massive corporation. As the older brother, Jake shouldered more of the burden, which made him more efficient, more demanding, and more. Well, frankly, he just didn't like me. Jake's gaze swept past Leo and landed on me. He looked at me like he was assessing a flawed item at an auction. His eyes traveled from my messy hair down to my bare feet, finally settling on the faint red mark on my collarbone. Instinctively, I pulled the collar of my robe higher. The fabric brushed against the love bite, and I let out a soft hiss. It seems I've interrupted your morning exercise. Jake's voice was an octave lower than Leo's, laced with the kind of passive aggression you'd expect from a wicked mother-in-law. Leo shifted, completely blocking me from view. What is it, Jake? You stayed over again last night? Leo looked down, guilty, as Jake's glare condemned him. Be home by 8 tonight. No excuses. I heard that. I ground my teeth. It was always like this. His brother acted like some feudal lord. Leo was 25, and he still had a curfew. With a brother-in-law like him, I was never going to get to first base. I hated him. Jake left after only saying those two things, shooting one last withering glance in my direction. Leo turned to me, an apology on his face. Before he could take a step, I pointed a finger at him. Mama's boy, I accused. Then I pointed toward the door-controlling patriarch. He took my hand, lifting it to his lips for a soft kiss. There's a reason for all this. I didn't care what his reason was. The pressure was insane. No in-laws, but a brother-in-law who watched your every move. The thought of marrying into this family, of that coffin-faced jerk lecturing both of us at once, made my blood boil. After we're married, I'm not living at the family estate. Of course, he agreed instantly. We'll live in whichever house you like. I eyed him suspiciously. And he'll just let us be free? He sighed. It's not that he's controlling, And there it was again. He always clammed up at the important part. Enraged, I lunged at him, ready to bite him. If you're not going to use that tongue, I'll just bite it off. He caught me, letting me plunder his mouth. Our bodies knew each other so well. In moments, he was swelling against me. He fought for control, about to head for another cold shower, but I clung to him like an octopus refusing to let go. I ground my hips against his just twice, and a strangled gasp escaped him. His large hands clamped onto me, holding me steady. Nina, be good. Watching him disappear into the bathroom, I hugged my knees in defeat. Damn it. I had to test his stamina before we got married. What if I ended up with a two-pump chump? My future happiness was at stake. So I did something a little devious. I slipped a little something into his favorite tea. After his shower, he downed half the cup. A few minutes later, he was yawning, complaining of being tired, and passed out in the guest room. Ha ha ha. You're all mine now. I pulled out the handcuffs I bought ages ago and secured his wrists firmly to the headboard. Forcing myself on someone, it was my first time, and in broad daylight, no less. I was actually a little shy. Leo was sleeping soundly, a lock of hair falling over his brow. His features were relaxed, his nose straight and high, and his lips still bore the mark from where I'd bitten him. My eyes drifted down. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, that gorgeous body. His pale skin seemed to glow under the lights, and yes, everything was still a perfect, tender pink. The lean muscles stretched over his 6'3" frame was a symphony of alluring lines. My gaze crept lower. I knew the kind of explosive power coiled in those abs. I had been craving him for so long. Looks, personality, family background, he had it all. I just needed to confirm this one last thing, and he'd be the perfect husband. I tentatively poked his peck with my finger. It was soft. He was really out. Usually, whenever I touched him, his muscles would tense up instantly. This was my only chance to feel his chest when it was relaxed. I kneaded his pecs for a while, like a cat making biscuits, then leaned in for a few eager licks before rubbing my face against him. Sleeping Leo was so cute. So perfect. He smelled so good after a shower. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I draped myself over him, nuzzling and rubbing. It felt incredible to be this close without any resistance. It didn't take long for little Leo to wake up. Pressing hard against my stomach, I watched his face carefully. His brow furrowed slightly, but he didn't wake up. Okay, I'm going for it. My fingertips traced the line down the center of his abs, slowly crossing the border. My face was burning, but I dutifully got to work, starting a timer in my head. Just as I was getting into a rhythm, Leo's phone buzzed. The caller ID, Jake. I freed one hand and answered. What's up, Jake? Leo's asleep. For some reason, Jake was breathing heavily on the other end. Was he at the gym or something? I'm in a meeting. Don't you too? My nerves got the better of me and I squeezed a little too hard. A choked gasp echoed through the phone. What the hell? What was he doing? Stop. I slammed the phone down, my ears turning scarlet. What kind of freak gets winded while talking to me on the phone? I looked back at Leo, who seemed so pitifully neglected. I leaned in to give him a kiss, just getting back into the swing of things when the phone started ringing again. Furious, I just switched it off. Finally, I could properly properly cherish my little Leo. Even in his sleep, he was restless, his breathing ragged. His hands strained against the cuffs, making them clink and rattle. His body twisted, as if trying to escape. I was relentless. More than 10 minutes had passed. You can do it, Leo. His eyelids fluttered. The stimulation must have been too much, because he woke up. Nina, you. His voice was unbelievably hoarse. He was completely consumed by desire, yet he still asked me to stop. I was just helping him out. What was the big deal? Other guys would beg for this. Annoyed, I started biting him playfully all over, slowly licking my way up to his chest. That was his favorite spot. I teased him with the tip of my tongue, flicking and sucking intermittently. His eyes glazed over, his long legs tensed, and he kicked the sheets into a tangled mess. Don't. His pleas only fueled my fire. I grew bolder, more reckless, until his body went rigid, stretched to its absolute limit. I checked the time. 25 minutes. Suddenly, a loud banging came from the front door. Leo, open up. Damn it. How did Jake get here so fast? I looked at Leo. He was holding back, tears welling in the corners of his eyes. He looked so fragile and vulnerable. My sweet, sweet boy. To hell with it. Jake didn't have a key. He couldn't get in. I started up again. Does it turn you on? I whispered. Doing this with your brother right outside? Leo bit his lip, refusing to make a sound, but a single tear traced a path down his temple. He was so adorable. I wanted to absolutely ruin him. With the rhythmic pounding on the door as our soundtrack, I pulled out all the stops. We were pushing 40 minutes. He stopped telling me no. Instead, he started moving with me, his eyes clouded with a lust so thick there wasn't a trace of clarity left. When I paused for a moment to tease him, his voice cracked with a sob. Please, Nina, I'm begging you. Please, help me. Finally, he let out a muffled cry. His jaw tilted back, the tendons in his neck standing out in sharp relief. His chest was flushed a deep crimson. It was an incredibly erotic sight. I glanced at the time. 62 minutes. I rewarded him with a couple of soft kisses before running to open the door. The hallway was brightly lit. Jake was slumped against the wall, completely limp, as if all his strength had deserted him. He was panting, his temples slick with sweat. Even stranger, there was a dark, wet patch on the front of his trousers. He didn't even have the energy to hide it. His eyes were vacant, staring blankly at me. Jake. I reached out to help him up. What was wrong with him? His hand suddenly shot out and gripped my arm. Before I could react, he yanked me down. I gasped as I fell, landing in a searingly hot embrace. The air was thick with a cloying, debauched scent. You. The rest of my words were swallowed by a sudden, punishing kiss. His arm clamped around me like a steel band while his other hand cupped the back of my neck, his grip so strong there was no chance of escape. This kiss was a punishment, fierce and brutal, and the coppery taste of blood soon filled my mouth. My eyes flew open. The face so close to mine was 90% identical to Leo's, but the emotion churning in those eyes was entirely different. This was naked possessiveness, a madness that had been suppressed for far too long. In the shadows of his lashes lurked a deep, predatory aggression. MMPH, let go. During a brief gasp for air, I shoved him with all my might. The sharp crack of a slap echoed in the hallway. His head snapped to the side, his dark hair falling over his eyes. What is wrong with you? I scrambled back, wiping my swollen lips, my heart hammering against my ribs. He slowly turned his head back. A clear, red handprint was already blooming on his cheek. I had hit him with everything I had, but I could have sworn I saw the corner of his mouth lift into a smile. What's wrong with me? He advanced on me, the shadow in his trousers rising again. When you were touching that, I told you to stop. Why didn't you? What was he talking about? When had I ever touched him? Nina, what's going on? Leo's voice called from inside the apartment. I gritted my teeth and shot Jake a glare, warning him to keep his mouth shut. Then I went back inside to uncuff Leo. While Leo got dressed, Jake used the guest bathroom to sort himself out. A few minutes later, he emerged looking perfectly composed again, that mask of cool detachment firmly back in place. The two brothers met in the entryway. For a moment, the air crackled with tension. They stood facing each other like reflections in a mirror. Leo was in casual clothes, Jake in a sharp suit. One's eyes held a warning, the others were frosty as ice. They shared the same face, but right now, they couldn't be more different. I looked from one to the other, my toes curling in my shoes from the sheer awkwardness. I felt a pang of guilt, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. My mind was a tangled mess. I tried to straighten it out. I did things with my boyfriend. His brother somehow knew we were doing it. I lavished affection on my boyfriend, and his brother looked like he was the one who received it. Something was clicking into place, a conclusion so bizarre I couldn't quite grasp it. Nina. Are you hungry? I glanced at the clock and realized I was starving. I'd exerted a lot of energy today. I needed to refuel. The rhythmic thump-thump-thump of a knife on a cutting board echoed from the kitchen. Leo had tied on an apron and was skillfully prepping ingredients. He hadn't taken his shirt off this time, but the tight black tank top he wore only accentuated his broad shoulders, trim waist, and massive chest. The open-plan kitchen gave me a perfect view. As I was enjoying the show, Jake slowly walked over, his eyes flawless between me and Leo. Then, with deliberate slowness, he unbuttoned his suit jacket. His chest muscles practically sprang free. He rolled up his shirt sleeves, loosened his tie, and joined Leo at the counter. The tailored trousers hugged his long, straight legs, and a leather belt cinched a ridiculously narrow waist. He was in just as incredible shape as his brother. I've got this. Leo's protest was useless. Jake had already taken the knife from his hand. You're too slow, even with vegetables. Jake's voice was as cold as ever, but his movements were surprisingly adept. The brothers subtly jostled for space, bumping shoulders, until they caught my suspicious glance and suddenly became a model of harmony. I had to admit, seeing two identical, yet completely different, gorgeous men standing side by side. I was beginning to understand the appeal of getting a 2-for-1 deal. Less than half an hour later, a 4-course meal was on the table. The braised ribs glistened invitingly, the stir-fried vegetables were a vibrant green, the chicken and mushroom soup smelled divine, and there was a platter of my favorite garlic butter shrimp. I was so hungry I could have eaten a horse. I sat down and immediately dug in. Leo sat next to me, carefully ladling a bowl of soup for me. Slow down. No one's going to steal it from you. Just then, a perfectly peeled shrimp was dropped into my bowl. Without looking up, I beamed reflexively. Thanks, honey. The air went dead silent for a second. I looked up and met Jake's knowing gaze. He slowly set down the shrimp shell, a smirk playing on his lips, before picking up another one to peel. His long, nimble fingers worked the shell off with practiced ease before dipping the shrimp in sauce. When the second shrimp landed in my bowl, my toes curled in embarrassment. Thanks, Jake. Leo cleared his throat, then gently turned my face toward him and wiped a smudge of sauce from the corner of my mouth with his thumb, which he then casually popped into his own mouth. Whoa, he never did things like that in front of other people. Jake, meanwhile, continued to peel shrimp with a blank expression, though his movements were noticeably more forceful than before. An unspoken war was being waged at the dinner table. I just kept my head down and ate, pretending not to notice the silent battle raging between the two brothers. It continued until a small mountain of shrimp had been erected in my bowl. I loved shrimp, but this was ridiculous. I grimaced and tried to transfer some to Leo's bowl. Suddenly, there was a sharp clink as a teacup was set down. It was Jake. What happened to his perfect table manners? Nina doesn't eat that much. She can't finish all that shrimp. She looks like she's got a healthy appetite. I think she can manage if she tries. Then both of them stared at me, their gazes intense. To eat or not to eat? That was the question. With Jake standing guard, Leo left reluctantly at 8 o'clock sharp. From then on, it was like Jake was determined to keep us under surveillance. Whenever Leo came over after work, Jake would follow like a ghost. He seemed terrified we might cross that final line. But watching him commandeer my study, like he owned the place, rubbed me the wrong way. I was the one paying rent here, wasn't I? Who gave him permission to just waltz in and out? Jake tapped the desk, then pressed on the back of the chair, frowning with a soft TSK. A flurry of phone calls followed. He had his assistant deliver a host of new items, and in no time, my humble little study was transformed into something out of an interior design magazine. You know what? Fine by me. He was welcome to come over whenever he wanted. Despite my brother-in-law's strict watch, his energy was finite. He was often cooped up in the study, working late. That was our chance. Leo and I would sneak out onto the balcony, stealing precious moments of solitude for passionate kisses. It felt illicit, almost like we were having an affair. And Leo, he was different. He used to be so restrained, but lately, he kissed me like he wanted to devour me whole. He wouldn't even let me come up for air, his arms locked around my waist, pulling me impossibly closer. And then once they get a taste, it's a whole different story. His tongue danced in my mouth, teasing, exploring, tracing the sensitive roof of my mouth. My nails dug into his shoulders. Oh, fireworks are going off in my brain. Tap, tap. Jake knocked on the balcony door, his eyes locked on me. My legs were still a little weak, and I leaned against Leo for support. Surely we're allowed to kiss, right? I mumbled, my head still fuzzy, rubbing my face against his chest. You're quite generous, Jake said cryptically. For some reason, that comment made Leo angry. His muscles tensed beneath my hands. I was still confused. Why were the two of them always at each other's throats these days? Thankfully, Jake backed off. I need to work. Keep it down. After he left, Leo finally relaxed. Nina, he held me tight, a conflicted, struggling look in his eyes. Do you love me? Of course I do. Only me? What a silly question. I kissed his chin. Who else would there be? He took a deep breath, burying his face in my neck, and seemed to settle down. No matter what, you can't leave me. Okay. I stroked his hair soothingly. As long as you don't cheat on me, I'm yours forever. My reassurances seemed to make him sleepy. He fought to stay awake as he led me back to the living room, where he collapsed onto the sofa with me in his arms. Then asleep in an instant. I was getting hot and sticky pressed against him, so I wriggled free. So hot. I opened the fridge for some juice. As I closed the door, I saw Jake's reflection in the shiny surface. He was standing right behind me. Remembering what happened last time, I was instantly on high alert. What do you want? His tone was cold. We need to talk. There are things Leo has been hiding from you. I think it's better you hear them sooner rather than later. Damn it. He knew exactly how to bait a hook. He was offering the one thing I desperately wanted to know. The study door was ajar. I stood near the entrance, ready to bolt. Ever since that kiss, being in the same room with him made my skin crawl. Spit it out. He seemed to recall his transgression, his gaze dropping for a moment before rising to meet mine. What do you know about twins? Sometimes, twins have a strange connection. It usually happens when they're young. But with him and me, it never stopped. We have a co-sensation. Co-sensation? What did that mean? It means... He picked up a pen and pricked the back of his own hand. On the sofa, Leo's hand clenched into a fist. We share every sensation, including pleasure. That's why he's never gone all the way with you. He didn't want me to taste you. My brain felt sluggish, but the pieces were finally falling into place, forming a picture that made a horrifying kind of sense. No wonder Leo had guarded his virtue so fiercely, no wonder Jake had been a wreck outside the door that day. Wait, does that mean I with both of them? Damn it. How could something so absurd be real? I knew it. Every gift from fate comes with a hidden price tag. So, leave him. I'll arrange for you to go abroad. You're a talented artist, aren't you? Traveling will inspire you. I'll give you 50 million. Just stay away from him. I stared at him like he was the evil villain in a soap opera. Are you insane? Even if me being with him affects you, we could just have a platonic relationship. His gaze was mocking. Your online handle is never forget your roots, isn't it? These are your paintings. He showed me his phone. My face flushed as I saw screen after screen of my own erotic art. They were all of Leo, imagined in various scenarios, in different places, even at the family estate. Hey, an artist has to stay true to their passion, right? You, of all people, talking about being platonic? Even if you married him, you'd still cheat. I slapped him. It was pure instinct. He turned his head with a sneer. That's the second time. He advanced on me, his presence overwhelming. I tried to yell, but he clamped a hand over my mouth. There is another option. You two can be together. Do whatever you want, as long as you let me join. What kind of filthy thing was he suggesting? I was going to let you go, he murmured, leaning in to kiss me. He was too strong. I struggled, but it was useless. I cursed him silently, my protests muffled into pathetic whimpers. His kiss grew hotter, more demanding. He forced my legs apart, pressing his body between them. Even through the layers of cloth, I could feel the alien heat of him. Your first kiss was on May 10th, 2023. The first time you touched him there was on August 2nd, am I right? I couldn't even remember those dates myself. But I know everything about the two of you. His wet kisses trailed down my neck. He was daring to leave a mark. Let me go. I was genuinely terrified now, tears streaming down my face as I begged him, but his greed only grew. Those eyes, identical to Leo's, were now swirling with nothing but raw, possessive desire. Please, I sobbed. Don't do this. Jake just chuckled a low, dark sound. He leaned in and whispered in my ear. It's okay. We're not that different. You can just pretend I'm him. His tongue flicked out, tracing the shell of my ear. We share the same genes, the same senses, even the same desires. I felt like I was screaming, but on the sofa, Leo slept on blissfully unaware, though a large tent was forming in his sweatpants. Damn it, don't be the sleeping husband. I kicked and struggled, my foot finally reaching the door. I shoved it hard. It swung into the wall without a sound. Right. Leo had installed those hydraulic door closers. Silent and soft. My expression must have been utterly idiotic because Jake let out a muffled laugh. I gave him something. He'll be out for a couple of hours, he won't disturb us. 2 hours. When he finally pulled back to wipe his mouth, my body was still trembling. He's never done that for you, has he? Lying on the desk, I dazedly shook my head. Ha. He really was afraid of me getting even a tiny taste. Was I better than him? Go to hell. I shakily raised my middle finger. When Leo woke up, he was still groggy. He tugged at his sticky sweatpants, then looked at us in confusion. I looked down, unable to meet his eyes. But he saw them, the red marks on my skin, the dampness of my hair from a hasty shower. Silence descended, thick and suffocating. Then, with a roar, he launched himself at Jake. The gentle, sweet Leo the first knew was gone, replaced by someone ferocious. Before I could even react, the two of them were a tangle of limbs on the floor. It was terrifying. I scrambled into the bedroom and locked the door. As much as my heart ached for Leo, the thought that every blow he took Jake felt too, somehow lessened the pain. They rolled and grappled on the ground, the sickening thud of fists meeting flesh echoing through the apartment. Blood trickled from the corner of Jake's mouth, but he was still smiling. You two were so reckless. You should have known this day would come. Leo didn't answer, just delivered a punishing blow to Jake's stomach. Seeing how vicious they were getting, I decided to just stay put. The sounds of the fight grew more intense, punctuated by dull thuds and pained grunts through it all. I could hear Jake's sick laughter and Leo's suppressed roars of fury. After what felt like an eternity, everything fell silent. Nina opened the door. It was Leo. His voice was impossibly gentle. It's over now. I unlocked the door and threw myself into his arms. He smelled of sweat and blood, but his embrace was a comfort, and I instantly felt safe. It's my fault. I shouldn't have hidden this from you for so long. He stroked my back gently. Does it hurt anywhere? Should we go to the hospital? The person who needed a hospital was the other guy. Jake watched us cling to each other, a self-deprecating smirk on his lips. I didn't finish. Fuck you. You want a medal for that. Jake ended up in the hospital. Leo was fine, just some bruises. The bastard knew he was in the wrong and had held back. Even so, Leo was in enough pain that he was bedridden for a few days. The bruises on his body slowly faded, but the effects of the co-sensation left him weak. I tapped my chin thoughtfully. So, this co-sensation, if I beat you half to death, he'd feel it too? Leo looked at me in disbelief. You want to hit me to get back at him? Of course not. I leaned in and kissed him, getting all cuddly before I snapped the handcuffs back on his wrists. You said no to the front, but what about the back? Leo had always been indulgent with me. No matter how many times he said no, all it took was some sweet talk, a few licks on his neck and a pleading syrupy voice, and he'd cave. I'd been doing will rollouts for 2 months, 500 reps a day, and now it was finally time to put that core strength to use. I might look slender, but I had abs of steel. That night, Jake's phone rang over 20 times. I ignored it, letting it serve as our background music. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and he had stepped in a big time. Leo whimpered and pleaded intermittently, but he knew I was angry and just held me tight, letting me have my way. Does it hurt? His expression was dazed, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. It's not pain, it's strange. Nina, kiss me more? After Leo finally drifted off to sleep, I answered the phone. Jake was furious, a rare crack in his composed facade. Are you even human? I'm still injured. If I wasn't going to get my revenge while he was in the hospital, when would I? You saw my drawings. You knew I wanted to do this. You knew what kind of person I was, and you still messed with me. He was speechless for a moment before sputtering. You sick freak. For some reason, my ears tingled. The way he said it sounded almost like a flirtation. My hand found its way back to Leo's backside, giving it a playful squeeze. What are you doing now? Round 2, I said sweetly, then hung up and switched off my phone. Perhaps because this felt like he was the one being taken advantage of, Leo was more than happy to share the experience with his brother. After 2 years of repression, even this was enough to make us lose ourselves completely. For 3 straight days, we were inseparable, lost in a haze of pleasure, day bleeding into night. It ended when Jake showed up at our door, dragging his recovering body with him. I licked my lips, still buzzing from our marathon session. Seeing Jake looking so breathless and exhausted was a turn-on. I was wrong. Okay? I was wrong. Just stop. Considering he was technically still a patient, I let him in. Leo, having thrown on some clothes, came out for a glass of water. You're out of the hospital? Jake had the dead-eyed look of a defeated man. He collapsed onto the sofa. I'm recovering. I have to be at the office tomorrow. You two need to give me a break. I rubbed my nose. Once you start, it's hard to stop. The next day, Leo and I behaved ourselves. We were just cuddling on the sofa, watching a movie. But then, out of nowhere, a steamy scene came on. Leo quietly got hard. You need to make that go away. Your brother's probably in a meeting. He ran to the bathroom and stood under a cold shower for ages. He came out with a towel wrapped around his waist, trying to hide it. It's not working. The shower isn't working anymore. Maybe it was because we'd been at it so much lately. He looked at me, his eyes shimmering, and the white towel was tented high. Sure enough, his phone rang. Are you two incapable of stopping? I have clients showing up in half an hour. You expect me to shake their hands with a heart on? I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. And you have the nerve to laugh, Nina Summers? You have 20 minutes. Get it done. I covered my mouth, trying to stifle my giggles. Is it convenient for you over there? I'm in a bathroom stall. Hurry up. I looked at Leo, asking for his permission. The last few days had clearly lowered his inhibitions because he just nodded in silent agreement. It had been a while since he'd let me touch him there. Leo gasped, sinking into the pleasure immediately. I licked and kissed the sensitive spot on his ear. Which do you like better, the front or the back? He blushed and refused to answer. But from his reactions, it was pretty clear he was a front door kind of guy. After playing the tyrant for so long, I decided to be generous. I used every trick in my book and we finished in just over 20 minutes. On the other end of the line, Jake was panting heavily, his voice raspy. He was groaning my name. Stop moaning and get yourself together. The aftershocks must have been intense, because it was a long time before I heard the sound of a toilet flushing. As for my guy, Leo's eyes were still unfocused, a little drool trickling from the corner of his mouth. So cute. I leaned in, kissing and petting him, burying my face in his chest. Platonic? Not a chance. Not with a man this beautiful. Not in this lifetime. Our wedding night. We ended up at the family estate after all. Jake had insisted, going on about tradition and how their parents' spirits would want to see them happy. Leo, the sweet fool, had agreed. I used to be glad he was so easygoing, but right now I was furious about it. Late at night, the bridal chamber. Even though I had touched every inch of him before, this was the first time he had ever touched me. As a beginner, Leo was having some docking issues. After a long time of fumbling, he was flushed red with frustration. I still can't get it in. I used to think bigger was better, but now that we were in the heat of the moment, it seemed we had a compatibility problem. Jake started knocking impatiently on the door. Are you guys getting anywhere? If not, let me try. Get lost. Leo roared back. After another stalemate, I cautiously sat up. Maybe. I should be on top tonight. This is our wedding night. Leo cried, completely exasperated. Fine, fine. He was the groom. I lay back down and gave him my most encouraging smile. Poor Leo looked like he was about to cry. Meanwhile, Jake was still scratching at the door. Are you two okay in there? If you need help, just ask me. I know what to do. You're a virgin too. What makes you think you know anything? I'm a fast learner. Bonus. First encounter. The way Leo and I met was pretty cliché. It was on the subway. He was heading to the stadium to meet a friend. I, being the shameless flirt that I am, took one look at him and started sketching him. Obviously, I couldn't draw anything explicit in public, so I made it a wholesome, sunny portrait. But as I was drawing, my hand started to shake. Black spots danced in front of my eyes, and a ringing filled my ears. Low blood sugar? Now? I vaguely reached out for something to hold on to, then pitched forward and collapsed. When I came to, I was in the arms of the handsome, muscular stranger. The lights above his head created a saintly halo. He was looking at me with concern, saying something I couldn't quite hear. Something sweet was pressed into my lips. I chewed. A gummy candy. He kept feeding them to me one by one until I accidentally bit his finger. My mind was still foggy, but my body apologized on its own. I licked the little indentation my teeth had made, even sucking on it for a second. His eyes slowly widened. Jake's perspective. Because of the co-sensation, Jake had remained a virgin his entire life. Countless women had thrown themselves at him. But could he risk it? He had a younger brother who looked up to him as a role model. While other teenagers were discovering themselves, he was taking cold showers, and more cold showers. His parents had died young, leaving him to run the family business and raise his brother. He had to project an image of calm, steady maturity just to keep things from falling apart. His suits were like a second skin. He was always rational, composed, and in control. Until Leo got a girlfriend. Jake had looked her over with a critical eye. She was cute, innocent-looking, pretty enough. But her family background was average. She was not a suitable match. He had seen countless girls like her, leeches drawn to their money or power. But Leo liked her, so he kept his opinions to himself. To his surprise, their relationship was stable. There were no unusual large expenses on Leo's accounts. So what was she after? It took him a long time to figure it out. She was after his body. When they kissed, she would tease and suckle, finding every sensitive spot in his mouth, on his ear, his neck, his chest. She explored his body, growing more and more familiar with it. Jake would sit in his office chair, pressing his fingers to his temples, fighting for composure. The constant stimulation on his chest was maddening. The front of his trousers would be uncomfortably tight, and he'd have to hide it with the folder. It was humiliating. Just outside his office, separated by a pane of frosted glass, his employees were walking back and forth. And he was in here, getting turned on. Then, just as her hands would start to wander south, just as they were about to touch the one place he desperately wanted her to touch, the sensation would vanish, replaced by the chilling memory of a cold shower. Fuck. It was always like this. Over and over. She'd bring him to the edge, but never, ever let him have any release.
Moral of the story. If your boyfriend comes with a twin family empire and unexplained psychic Wi-Fi, read the terms and conditions before dating. Also, never assume you're in a private moment when the whole household might be on the same network. A few more quick advice: cold showers can solve many problems, apparently not this one. If the brother says stop, maybe ask why before continuing. Dating a green flag is great until the family package includes supernatural side effects. Some relationships need communication. This one needed communication, boundaries, and probably a neurologist.